Disney seeks to indoctrinate young children into transgender lifestyles. This is clearly not the Disney that you grew up with. This is Randy Osborne.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Worldview Truth. Who would have thought that just about a year ago that a simple bill which supported parental rights would have created such a firestorm over our children? This bill, which was actually HB 1557 in the state of Florida, was to prevent kindergarten through third graders from being taught sexual content in the LGBT lifestyle. That is simply all this bill did. But Disney, you know, that family wholesome entertainment company, they came out in full force in opposition to this bill because I guess they believe it's their duty to promote sexual lifestyles on young children. I remember years ago when my children were young that we sat down and we were watching a Disney movie, basically a cartoon that had Dumbo in it. And I came unglued when I found out that Dumbo was drunk. But that's nothing of what we see today. In fact, this battle has been going on for years. And it's just now that they have been exposed to what kind of radicals that they have been. And the battle is to directly destroy the family unit. And by the way, there's many educators throughout the state and throughout our nation that believe that educational institutions know best for our children and not the parents. There was a statement from Disney corporate that said this, I quote, "Florida's HB 1557 should never have passed and should have never been signed into law." And then they go on to say this, "Our goal as a company is for this law to be repealed by the legislature or struck down in the courts, and we remain committed to supporting the national and state organizations working to achieve that." And by the way, those organizations that are working to achieve that are radical LGBTQ plus organizations that promote all kinds of things, including sexualizing our children. Disney's public statement went on to say this, "We are dedicated to standing up for the rights and safety of LGBTQ plus members of the Disney family as well as the LGBTQ plus community in Florida and across the country." Here's what I have to say about that. Disney can communicate whatever they want and frame this issue any way they want. But that does not change the reality that Disney is opposing to protect children from inappropriate sexual content in the classrooms. You see, it's not just the new Florida law that Disney is actually opposing and is fighting against. But Disney has been promoting LGBT content to our children for quite a while now. For example, in a year ago, July, Disney introduced to the Disney Channel the first openly trans character called The Raven's Home. There's a gay publication that recently stated, quote, "No one loves a first gay character more than Disney." I'm going to give you just a quick, brief list of some of the characters that are in some of the Disney movies in recent times. This was the first gay married couple, Bucky and Pronk, in Zootopia. There's a first lesbian couple in Pixar film Couple in Finding Dory. The first exclusively gay moment in Beauty and the Beast. The first bisexual superhero in Thor. The first gay character in the MCU, Grieving Man in Avengers. Then there's the first lesbian of color, was in Pixar Toy Story 4. Same-sex kiss in Star Wars film. First lesbian character in Spectre in Onward. First major gay character in Jungle Cruise. First major gay character again in Cruella. First gay Disney love song, High School Musical. First lesbian superhero in the MCU. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. First same-sex kiss in Pixar film Hawthorne and Lightyear. First teen lesbian couple in MCU, Ms. Marvel. And then the first openly gay teen romance in a feature called Strange World. And then there's more. This past year, Disney decided to go to a whole new low. And by putting out a FXX cartoon owned by Disney called Little Demon, that's about a 13-year-old middle school girl whose mom was impregnated by Satan and produces the Antichrist starring Danny DeVito and his daughter Lucy. This show has gone to new lows with Disney as it's turning entertainment into Satanism and in an effort to desensitize the viewer into the occult, and they are targeting our children. Now, Disney says this is for adult audience. However, they're putting this on Disney Plus and Hulu, which will entice kids to watch it. There's one of the actors who actually portrays the mom in the show. Her name is Aubrey Plaza, and she was asked what she liked about the show, and this is a quote, "I love that we are normalizing paganism," end of quote. You might say, oh, she's just sensationalized her new role. However, back in 2017 in an interview in LA Weekly, she talks about being involved in the occult and witchcraft and satanic rituals. She was quoted as saying, quote, "Maybe that's why I'm into witches," end of quote. Thankfully, due to the outrage of parents against this new show, Disney actually pulled the Little Demon show. Not only has Disney moved in the transgender world, but they also have moved in the diversity and inclusion program. They call it Reimagine Tomorrow. This program teaches staffers about systemic racism, white fragility, and microaggressions. It also teaches staff to take ownership of educating themselves about structural anti-black racism and asked white employees to work through their feelings of guilt, shame, and defensiveness to understand what is beneath them and what needs to be healed. They have also asked their employees to reject equality and instead strive for equity. Let me help you with that term, equity. Equity is a socialism term. It's a term based on socialism and communism. It has nothing to do with equality of different races and different peoples. Disney's training goes on to explain to their employees about America's racist infrastructure. It also includes a how-to guide on 75 things white people can do for racial justice. When Disney was confronted about this, they came back and said, oh, it's a recommended program. It's not a required program. When the public caught wind of this, Disney has reported that this program has been canceled. Who knows? Splash Mountain is reportedly to be permanently closed due to the movie Song of the South, which was a 1946 song, which Disney has identified as allegations of racism stereotypes of African Americans. I want to go back for a minute and play Governor Ron DeSantis' response to Disney when Disney made the decision to get into the political arena and go after Florida on this bill that was passed.
Companies that have made a fortune off being family friendly and catering to families and young kids, they should understand that parents of young kids do not want this injected into their kids' kindergarten classroom. Our policy is going to be based on the best interest of Florida citizens, not on the musing of global corporations.
So after the governor doubled down on this against Disney, Disney doubled down and decided that they would not change their position on this and got more aggressively active on this issue. There are many people, including myself, is asking, why would Disney do this? What is their game plan? Why are they doing it? And I think some answers can be found in some of Disney's leaked documents and leaked videos that have been put out in recent times. One internal document reveals that Disney's plan is to make 50% of all their characters LGBTQ plus characters within the next year. That's right, 50% of all characters. Their plan is to make LGBTQ plus characters. Here's what former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee says about the Florida parental rights bill on Fox Business Tonight.
Comes to Disney, I actually want to read you what Ron DeSantis had to say. He said, you have companies like Disney that are going to say and criticize parents' rights. They're going to criticize the fact that we don't want transgenderism in kindergarten and first grade classrooms, and that's the hill they're going to die on, DeSantis said. Then how do they possibly explain lining their pockets with their relationship from the Communist Party of China? He's not wrong.
No, he's not wrong. And I'll tell you something. Ron DeSantis did something that none of the Disney executives did. He actually read that bill that he signed. Because if the Disney people had read it, they would realize that there's nothing in that bill, nothing that says don't say gay. That is something that has been created by critics who want to try to make it a controversial bill. Disney ought to be proud to support that bill. They used to be family-friendly, kid-friendly. Heck, I can remember when Disney was the brand that parents could trust, whether it was the television shows, their movies, their merchandise. Not anymore. No, because Disney has now said that it is okay for a government school to tell your 3-year-old about sexuality. Now, when has that become the responsibility of a government school to do? I don't think most parents in America, I'd like to think even liberal parents in America, would rather that be something that they handle at home rather than give it over to someone who doesn't know their child at an age that is utterly inappropriate to discuss some of those things.
Yeah, FoxBusiness.com wrote an article about this, reached out to Disney, was looking for some comment on it. Of course, they didn't hear anything back. But Governor, you look at a situation like this and you say they're making tons of money off of China. They've got theme parks there. They film movies there. And essentially, they know that when it comes to the Chinese Communist Party, much like Vladimir Putin, for example, these are leaders that will draw a red line, and they don't want to hear certain things. And it really feels like Disney is putting its profits over, doing the right thing.
Well, it's very obvious, Jackie, that that's what they're doing. When you think about the genocide that's going on with the Uyghurs, and Disney filmed one of their movies right there by the camp that the Chinese conveniently call an education camp, it's a prison camp, and they're murdering people. This is nuts. And they're willing to make millions of dollars off the atrocities of the Chinese Communist Party, and to do it at the expense of American parents and common sense individuals who may just have a little bit of a problem in teaching explicit sexual things to 3- and 4-year-old kids. But if Americans don't stand up, speak up, and really act up against this kind of nonsense, it'll just keep happening. I don't like boycotts. I hate them. I think it's a bad idea generally. But at the same time, parents have every right to say, who do I want to support? A company that looks the other way at genocide? Honest to God, genocide? And then thinks that it's okay to teach a 3- or 4-year-old something about explicit sex acts? I just can't imagine that Walt Disney, who's been dead now for decades, would ever approve of what has happened to the company bearing his name. I think if he could, he'd come out of the grave and say, take my name off this. I want nothing to do with what you have become. It is an embarrassment to the Disney name.
Here's a video that was leaked by Christopher Rufo. And it was Disney corporate president Carrie Burke. And she goes on to say, as a mother of 2 children, one's a transgender and one's a pansexual child, that she supports having many, many LGBTQIA characters on our stories, which she's talking about Disney stories. And I want you to listen to what she has to say.
I'm here as a mother of 2 queer children, actually, one transgender child and one pansexual child, and also as a leader. And that was the thing that really got me, because I have heard so much from so many of my colleagues over the course of the last couple of weeks in open forums and through emails and phone conversations. I feel a responsibility to speak, not just for myself, but for them, to all of us. We had an open forum last week at 20th where, again, the home of really incredible, groundbreaking LGBTQIA stories over the years, where one of our execs stood up and said, we only have a handful of queer leads in our content. And I went, what? That can't be true. And I realized, it actually is true. We have many, many, many LGBTQIA characters in our stories, and yet we don't have enough leads and narratives in which gay characters just get to be characters, and not have to be about gay stories. And so that's been very eye-opening for me. And I can tell you, it's something that I feel perhaps had this moment not happened, I as a leader and me as my colleagues would not have focused on. And going forward, I certainly will be more so. I know that we will be. And I hope this is a moment where, the 50% of the tears sorry, are coming. We just don't allow each other to go backwards.
If you don't think Disney's going after your children, you are sorely mistaken. So when Disney decided to double down and they began going after our legislature and the governor and the legislature started fighting back. And this is what they did. The land that Disney is on was carved out by the Florida legislature in 1967. And it was working with Walt Disney World Company, and it created what's called a special taxing district called the Reedy Creek Improvement District. This gave Walt Disney World huge tax benefits and incentives that no other park has or has had here in the state of Florida. Well, this year the legislature made a decision to remove that special district and put it back into Florida's governance. And I personally believe that there's twofold reasons that both are good reasons that should have been done. First of all, Disney has had an uneven playing field for years and years. And secondly, if they're going to get in the political arena and start going after our children and try to politically change the legislature's laws, which has nothing to do with Disney, by the way, then I think rightfully so, the governor and the legislature should reconsider exactly what Disney's doing. This is a Reuters report, and this is what Disney attempted to do as a workaround against the legislature.
We're not going to allow self-governing for any one big corporation.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis fired back at Disney on Monday in an intensifying battle between the likely presidential contender and one of the state's largest employers, announcing that the Republican-controlled state legislature will file a bill to formally nullify a development agreement with Disney.
This is basically a sham agreement.
After the Magic Kingdom struck a deal with outgoing members of a special district board to circumvent state oversight of its parks and tie the hands of DeSantis' appointees.
I mean, they thought that they could create some type of development agreements that would essentially render everything that we did null and void and put them in control in perpetuity for this. Well, that's not going to work. That's not going to fly.
Florida lawmakers passed a bill in February giving DeSantis effective control over a board that oversees the special district that encompasses the Walt Disney World Resort. But 3 weeks before the takeover by DeSantis appointees, Disney pushed through changes to the agreement that limited the board's action for decades.
Disney stay gay! We won't go away!
The Republican governor began targeting Disney a year ago after the company's then CEO spoke out against Florida's Don't Say Gay law. Critics of DeSantis say the Republican is weaponizing the power of the state to retaliate against a corporation that disagrees with his policies.
So the legislature went ahead and passed legislation that would nullify Disney's efforts to try to circumvent the state oversight of Disney World. And here's what Disney's CEO response is after DeSantis came out and ordered an investigation. This is what he said.
This is that any action that thwarts those efforts simply to retaliate for a position the company took sounds not just anti-business, but it sounds anti-Florida.
So Disney, just this past week, filed a lawsuit against the state of Florida and the governor on this new found legislation. From what I know, the legislature has full right to pass legislation to approve Reedy Creek Improvement District or to nullify it. So now there's Republican candidates that are actually taking an opportunity to go after Ron DeSantis on the decision he has made on Disney. I want you to listen to who this is.
Headlines: Walt Disney Parks and Resorts, they're suing Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and the board he appointed to oversee Disney's special taxing district.
So it's the latest in this back and forth between Disney and DeSantis. And this morning, Republican candidate Nikki Haley is actually weighing in on this. The lawsuit was filed after DeSantis' board voted to nullify an agreement between Disney and the previous board. Disney says that the governor, quote, weaponized his political power to punish the company for exercising its free speech, speech rights. And the company has had control over the land around its Central Florida theme parks. And the February agreement gave them development rights for the next 30 years. DeSantis moved to take away that power after Disney's former CEO criticized a bill that DeSantis signed that bans discussion on sexual orientation and gender identity in kindergarten through third grade. So before DeSantis' oversight board officially took control from Disney, the old board passed measures rendering the new board mostly powerless.
And as this legal battle continues, presidential candidate Nikki Haley is weighing in a recent interview. In fact, the former governor of the Palmetto State actually said South Carolina would, quote, happily accept Disney if they wanted to move operations. Yeah, she took to Twitter saying, quote, hey, Disney, my home state would happily accept your 70,000 plus jobs if you want to leave Florida. We've got great weather, great people, and it's always a great day in South Carolina. SC isn't woke, but we're not sanctimonious about it either, end quote. Well, in the interview, she says she would be happy to introduce Disney to the governor and legislature that would welcome them.
The comments that Nikki Haley made concerning Ron DeSantis and Florida and Disney, offering Disney to come to South Carolina. First of all, she's not the governor. She has no political influence as an elected official in any shape or form. All that is political pandering. But beyond that, for her to make a comment like that is absolutely over the top, especially running for the presidency of the United States. And quite frankly, that's the end of her run, in my opinion. She needs to just go ahead and resign or step down from the position, because there is no way that she's going to get the votes that she'll need to run for the Republican candidate. This is Randy Osborne with Worldview Truth. We will be right back. Worldview Truth. This is Randy Osborne. I want to introduce to you a new podcast called Worldview Truth. Worldview Truth discusses conservative issues and battles that are important to you that you will not hear on mainstream media. Please follow, like, and share Worldview Truth with Randy Osborne. Thank you, and God bless. Worldview Truth. So Disney is also changing many of their characters into more gender-neutral characters. Even Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse is being changed. Their dress is being changed. Now Minnie Mouse is now in some kind of a blue-looking pantsuit. And they're continuing changing a lot of these different characters to make them more gender neutral. Also, the parks are becoming gender neutral. They don't want anybody to, their cast members to say anything that is of male or female nature. They're trying to keep everything gender neutral. Here's the bottom line. Disney is very, very clearly going after your children. Disney World and Walt Disney companies, it is geared toward children. It is, the entire organization is focused on young people, young children. I don't know of many people that have not taken their children to Walt Disney World or a Disney World park. It's geared toward children. We also know this, that Disney is going after our children in this LGBTQ lifestyle and agenda. It's clear. We played the video that you could hear where the corporate office at corporate levels are trying to change the characters of Disney. They're trying to take it as woke as possible. The movies, they are doing everything they can to come after our children. And here's the question I have. Knowing that, now that you know that, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to continue to support Disney, knowing what they're going to do? And this is the scenario that I'm thinking about is, why would you support a company and an organization by giving money to them so they can further their woke agenda, knowing that they're using that money that you're giving them to literally destroy your children? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? And I have many people say, well, Randy, I can't change everything. I mean, there's a lot of things that I don't support that I have to do business with. Yes, but there's a little difference in that. This is entertainment. You do have the ability. This is not a matter of life or death. It's not a matter of putting food on the table. This is a matter of allowing a company to indoctrinate your children into a sexual lifestyle. Why is it important for an organization to indoctrinate children into a sexual lifestyle? That's what this is about. Oh, and by the way, they're not doing this in parks internationally that are in total opposition to this lifestyle. They're not doing it in those parks. They're just doing it in the United States and other countries that are allowing it. Here's the bottom line. They are getting money from the public. The public has a decision to say yes or no to what Disney is doing. What they're doing is in effect of indoctrinating your children. Bottom line is you have the right, you have the ability to stop this. And the way you stop it is you quit doing business with them. You quit doing business with them, and it will bring Disney on their knees. And either they'll make major changes in the organization or they will go under. And some other organization will learn from this, and they will rise up and have a family-friendly entertainment spot that is not trying to indoctrinate children into a sexual lifestyle. That's what this is about. This is Randy Osborne. Until next time, God bless. Worldview Truth.